I just bought the Panasonic Lumix S9. Choosing to get the standalone camera body and then hand pick each accessory to go with it, I was able to assemble what I think is the best minimalistic filmmaking setup for under $2,000. And if you are interested in any of this gear, there are links in the description. The S9 has a full frame sensor, real-time LUT. It can record 6K open gate video up to 30 FPS in 10-bit log. It has some of the best in-camera image stabilization. While it might not beat Canon and Sony when it comes to autofocus, it's still really good. And at a price between $1,000 and $1,500, depending on when and where you buy it, it's an incredible amount of value for the price. Now, if you jump on Amazon and search for this camera, you will instantly be shown a ton of these package deals ranging anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800 that supposedly come with everything you need to get started. But whether you're buying this camera or any other camera, the reality is that these package deals will include the camera body, a mediocre kit lens, and then a bunch of the cheapest and junkiest accessories. So the first thing that I put in my cart while shopping was the standalone camera body. Now, even though there was no mention of this in the listing, the camera did come with a strap and an official Lumix brand battery. It is pretty standard for cameras to come with a battery, even if they don't mention it, but either way, one battery really isn't enough because you never want to end up in a situation where you can't use your camera because you're waiting for your one battery to charge. So I also went ahead and got this 2-pack of K&F Concept batteries, which also came with this nice charger. I am usually a little skeptical of off-brand batteries, but this happens to be a brand that I'm pretty familiar with, and so far these have been working great. The next thing I needed to get this camera up and running was a lens, and I chose to go with the Lumix S-Series 50mm f1.8. This focal length provides the perfect balance of compression and shallow depth of field that creates blurry backgrounds, while still being a wide enough field of view that you can have the camera relatively close to the subject that you're filming. So it's the perfect lens for portrait photography and medium framed video shots. The autofocus is fast and accurate while remaining completely silent. Along with this lens, I also picked up this Nano K series variable ND. This gives an extra level of control over how much light enters the camera without having to stop down the aperture, and it also just protects the lens from getting scratched. The SD card that I'm using with this camera is the 128GB SanDisk Extreme Pro. When shooting 6K video on this camera, 128GB is the minimum I would recommend for an SD card. But what's even more important than the card size is the write speed. This camera records at 200 megabits per second when filming in 6K, so the SD card also needs to be able to write at or above that speed. Now, don't get confused by the megabyte per second transfer speed that is usually printed on SD cards, because this only refers to the read speed and not the write speed. The only number here that really matters is the V rating, which stands for video. This card is rated at V30, which means it can handle 30 megabytes per second, which translates to 240 megabits per second. So a V30 SD card is also the minimum I would use with this camera. And last of all, I bought this small rig cage. This attaches to the thread mount on the bottom of the camera, and then it wraps all the way around the camera and provides a bunch of extra thread mounts on the bottom, the side, and the top. It has 2 additional cold shoe mounts. The plate on the bottom is also a Arca Swiss quick release plate, so it can directly attach to tripods. And it has a built-in grip because the S9 only has this very small thumb grip on the back and is just completely flat on the front without any sort of grip here. As I mentioned before, there's links for all this gear in the description. If you're new here, make sure to check out my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.